Yeah.
All right, hi. Thank you for making time to do this today.
Hi, Selena. Super nice to be here.
Nice to meet you. So I was watching your TED Talk, and my first question is, what lessons have you taken from that into your professional life?
Yeah, so I did a TED Talk in 2018. It was on empowering others, empowering yourself. So I shared my personal quest on diversity, inclusion, belonging through volunteering. And actually, after that TED Talk, my speaking career went really high up. I went half a year later. I was already in Poland speaking to European Solidarity Corps, why volunteering will change European society for the better.
Okay.
Then I became a speaker coach for women in tech. I was a speaker coach as a mentor to winning Galit Nadbornik.
Yes.
You've probably heard.
She used to work with us.
Yeah. And then I've been also speaker coach in other events, also in Global Dignity, the NGO that I have co-founded with Tanya Lankia. And now as a speaker on diversity inclusion, it's really nice to use the same experiences, the lived experiences, the proof, and finding now research, which is so nice to have, to back that my lived story is also supported by research and how it helps others to recognize their potential, how universities can also enable their students to volunteer, and how can universities connect to to companies and asking companies to become mentors.
Yeah.
So the mentoring volunteering has been a backbone, and everything is under like a big social capital exchange that really is what is a missing element in our society wherever you go. And I'm just so happy that I was so shy of my topic, that volunteering is something that I've been mobbed for because it's unpaid work.
Okay, so really?
Yeah, so they were like, why such a do-gooder doing free stuff? I'm like, but listen, it helps me to understand who I am and belong in societies where I wasn't, welcome, like in Denmark and Finland, two happiest countries. So in that sense, it really lifted myself to be where, like, this is my true self. This is my, I come in with integrity, and I'm happy that having the opportunity, which is also volunteer, right? The TED Talk, you needed to be coached. Yeah. Now it really gives me so much more credibility, and I'm very happy for that experience.
And how is that related to the event you had today in the studio?
Yeah, I did speak of that. So I spoke at Nokia. Why diversity inclusion enables us better working, earning, living is that we all need to remember to stay human and to create that sense of community. And that's all comes from, the grassroots organizations that this is where you come in and you forget your differences. And I told Nokia employees that Finland is an open source. You should go in and check out where you can serve and give back. And we want to have not just consumers in the society, we want creators. And I think when you volunteer, you're person of art. You're creating emotional experience for someone, for elderly, for young people. And so yeah, I think it really, really resonated well. Got a lot of questions, and how could they as foreigners, there was a question, how could as foreigner help diversity debate in Finland?
What's the answer for that?
Yeah, so I said that you use the society as open source, and looking if you're in Tampere, you're in Turku, or Oulu or Espoo, that there are so many student societies, there's so many universities, there's so many NGOs, that you can just go in and reach out and see what you can do for them.
Okay.
And especially as a Nokia employee, everyone wants to see what's that like in Nokia? Because you're thinking of future of work, and you have a lot of young workforce which is unemployed or uncertain about their choices. So we need just the guidance and just be together at some connecting events.
Which happens to be volunteer. Also.
Exactly, yeah. So
I wanted to ask you about being a community leader, because you've been an award-winning community leader. So how would you define a successful community leader?
Yeah, so it goes back to my activism years in Denmark, where I started, promoting intercultural dialogue. There was a lot of focus on Islamophobia when I was studying there. I studied as an international student there, and I could see there's so much injustice, and so I went to these different events, like rallies. I helped my friend to. She was running a political campaign, and she wanted to bring in this focus on diversity. And so I think the community leadership that I did was just get up on a beer stand and talk, beer can stand.
Okay.
And so it was how do we bring in diversity? We need to make it visible, right? And we need to be voice of ourselves, but also of others.
Yeah.
And when I moved to Finland, I started an NGO with Tanja Lankia Global Dignity.
Okay.
And that was a way to also bring in underrepresented voices. So what you do as a community leader is you're never shy. Not never shy. Of course, you're never shy, but you're never selfish.
Okay.
You want to serve others because you know that you've been empowered and you want to create experiences that push people forward. And you need to love your community. You need to love the people that you serve or you feel you can help. And I've been helped so much by others, like mentors and friends. And I also saw a lot of like hostility by people who are underrepresented. And instead of being competitors, I wanted to build coalitions.
Yeah.
So what you do to build coalition also as a community leader is to recognize that everyone has talents and everyone has something to give. And we have enough of market or voices where we can places we can voice ourselves. And another one is that you need to be engaging as a community leader. You need to know what works, what are the needs. So it's sort of like this customer centric. So you don't want to offer something that they wouldn't be interested in.
Yeah.
So always driving, saying, okay, this is what we're going to do today. I'm having an event. How can we make this event successful, where everyone can contribute? And then we have a bigger cause, like it's a dignity event or it's an event for inclusion leaders in Helsinki area, for example. Or I pitched once for meeting Obama when he was coming to Nordic Business Forum. Yeah. So yeah.
They all sound like excellent points. Basically, don't be a selfish person.
Yeah. You're never selfish if you want to run communities.
And then you grew up in Uzbekistan. And I remember in your TED Talk, you spoke about the kind of gender inequality there a lot. Have things changed since moving away from there? Yeah,
so Uzbekistan, I've lived half of my life now in the Nordics, and I just 3 years ago I started going back and engaging back with the community, where I also felt unwanted in a way because I left. But my whole family lives there, and of course it has changed. That you have now co-working centers, you have universities, foreign universities opening up. You have hipsters, right? Like if you have those cultures, there always will be subcultures in every corner of the world. And so Uzbekistan is a bubbling place, but for the women, especially in the COVID time, I've seen a spark of gender-based violence. I've seen a spark of much more of populistic and like where women actually are scapegoats. So it's a very, very, very sad development. But yeah, we see bike lanes in the big cities. We see more girls speaking out. There are girl speaker events.
Yeah.
So there's been a TED Talk, and I've been also promoting, I have a fellowship there in Uzbekistan because I've been very active with young people. So after the TED Talk, we have 20,000 views on YouTube.
Wow.
And a lot of them, I think, is also from Uzbekistan because we need to foster our own role models. Not everyone should be looking towards, Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. So every country deserves their own role models, and I'm happy to be one. So no, it's a work in progress.
How did they take to the fact when you became a public speaker? Like, what was the reaction back at home?
Well, my father wasn't that happy. Because he didn't want me to be public. He knows I'm very outspoken.
Yeah.
And I'm very justice-oriented person. I've seen so much violence. I grew up in a violent neighborhood. I grew up with so much injustice towards me. I was born to be seen, but not heard. And I just didn't want to live that life. And so I think I'm still, rebuilding that awareness what my father should have and all the fathers should have.
Yes.
But yeah, I think my whole family is proud. They probably think I should have got married like 10 years earlier.
My family too.
So there are all these social pressures, and there will be. So it's just so important that we have our own spine and focus on what makes you happy, but still be part of the community. So it's important.
Well, good that they're proud now.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to talk a little bit about when you moved to America, because that was your first big international move, right? How was that? How was the cultural differences?
Yeah, so I was 15, and there were Peace Corps volunteers.
You were here.
I know. In Uzbekistan, they were teaching in my school, and I was like, wow, these are the first foreigners I could speak to, and looking at them, and then also all the other Uzbeks that were already studying in the US. it made me believe that I could also move there one day. So that was when I moved to US. The first like cultural shock for me was, I mean, I couldn't make my own decisions. And when I went, I lived in San Antonio, Texas. From South Uzbekistan to South US, I'm like, come on, like I was supposed to be in New York or California or Florida. And then I come to this big city where I feel like I look like Hispanic. Nobody thinks I'm special. And it's a 2,500 city kids, 2,500 school, 2,500 students in the school, San Antonio Marshall High School. And so the experience was that I need to make my own decision. People were so outspoken, all these people, and I was so shy. I wouldn't say the F word. I wouldn't say the S word, I was super properly, like brought up. Yeah. But I loved the cinema. I loved the popcorn. I loved, going out to Joe's Crab Shack, fish restaurant. Yeah. So no, it was an amazing experience.
Wait, but you told me earlier the story when who were you living with and they dropped you off at the mall.
Yeah, so that was the story with, making your own decisions, right? So my host mom brings me to Target and she says, I'll see you in 3 hours. And I come from a very strict family where I couldn't buy my own clothes. And then she drops me off in the Target and said, I'll see you in 3 hours. And I was like, okay, so wait a minute, what's my favorite color? That was super weird. Like you really literally had to decide, do I like purple? Do I like orange? Or do I like yellow? Do I dare to wear yellow? Like it was so bizarre that I had a shock with myself that how brought up I was, that I just didn't have my own voice. So that really, then it started with, when I was 15 and then, it was at the same year Hillary Clinton made that speech in Beijing. Okay. I studied this homework and it's amazing that it's just making rounds.
Did you call your mom for help then? Do you remember?
No, because I got $100 in pocket costs every month and a minute cost like $3 to call. So it was only emailing. Sorry, not even email. There was no email. It was only writing letters. Oh, wow. With that post box.
We know that. It's a long time ago.
So I would run and get every month it would be a letter. It was always in tears. I mean, it was my first time I ever left family home.
Scary as well.
Yeah. So it was crazy. And so then, no, I didn't call her.
But that's when you started, I guess, finding your own identity?
Yes. Yeah. That was with other exchange students.
What about when you moved to Denmark? Do you remember any cultural shocks of Denmark?
Yes. Denmark, I was already 18. And so when I moved there, I got a shock that I was like, oh my God, they have their own language. Like, yes, I could speak English. And there were Danish teachers interviewing us in Uzbekistan. And so I got a space and I studied multimedia design. And so in that school was a college degree. I had biases, like why would I go to college degree? Okay. Why wouldn't I go to university? So, talking about humility. But that technical school was better than a, Uzbek university. Yeah. And so, and I was in a newspaper, in Danish newspaper, and the first reaction I said, wow, girls on bikes. That was my literally in Aarhus, in Aarhus newspaper. Yeah. So it was a great sense of freedom. I lived in a student dorm and I had my own room, I had my own bathroom. It was like, oh, wow, I have to take care of myself and make my own money. That was the first time.
Well, having had all these experiences, what piece of advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah, I would just, I must honor that I've been fearless at the time, with all the trouble that I went through when I was a kid. I'm very grateful for my fearlessness, but I would give myself an advice that don't think what others think about you.
That's a good one.
Because you still remain the same person. Yeah. Whatever other people think about you or don't think about you. Yeah. And then the other thing is that dare to make mistakes, dare to speak up more, dare to disagree, because, when you're supposed to be like this yes person, you also need to know what doesn't serve you. And I think that came a bit late to me. So younger self, be more calm in your choices, which is hard, right?
Yes, it is.
And be okay with your looks. Oh my God, be okay with your looks. I hated my nose. I always thought I had a big nose, and that fine now. But those teenage insecurities, yes. I just wish that there was some pill that would take them away for all the girls.
I think we have a long way to go still with
yeah, it's so much on
everyone
looks.
takes everyone else's opinions of them.
Yeah. So, I mean, just that self-awareness, learn as fast as you can, self-awareness and self-acceptance, I think.
That's
those
a
are
good
two.
one.